Hi there, and welcome to the Okie Dokies crochet tutorial for creating your very own adorable Charlie the Bunny. In this video, we will go step by step to make our adorable Charlie, including the overalls that go with it. For the stitches you'll need to know, for this one you'll need to know single crochet, increase, decrease, chain, our magic ring alternative, and double crochet. If you're new to any of these stitches, you can find tutorials for them on this page above the video or on the tutorials page of our website. If you're using the Okie Dokies crochet kit, the materials that you will be given are our chunky chenille yarn in both colors, the safety eyes, the stuffing, some yarn needles, a crochet hook, some stitch markers. Additional materials that you will need are just a pair of scissors. All right, before we begin, don't forget that you are totally welcome to rewind the video at any time, pause it, slow down, whatever you need to do to ensure that your bunny is as cute as you want it to be. You can also alter the placement of whatever you would like to make it how you want it. All right, let's get in. All right, let's grab our butter biscuit yellow. Go ahead and get started. We're going to start with our magic ring alternative. So wrapping our yarn around these two fingers in an X. Our crochet hook under here. Grab the working yarn, pull through and twist. And then yarn over again, pull through. Hold your finger on this and gently pull on this yarn tail to close it. And then yarn over and pull through again. And then in this first chain, the second one from the hook, do 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we're going to go ahead and do 8 increases for this round. So I'm going to go ahead and place my stitch marker. And remember, our increases are just 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right, now we're going to do 3 rounds of just 16 single crochets. So round 3, 16 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Make sure you flip it, and we're going to go ahead and move that stitch marker up. Right, round 4, 16 single crochets again. Move that stitch marker. Right. Round 5, same thing, 16 single crochets. All right. Go ahead and move that stitch marker up. And then for this leg, we're going to go ahead and leave a small yarn tail, but cut it off, leaving the stitch marker in. We're going to set it aside for just a second, and we're going to go ahead and make another leg. So again, start with your magic ring alternative with 8 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, go ahead and grab another stitch marker. Right, 8 increases for round 2. Move that stitch marker up. Round 3, 16 single crochets. Remember to flip it. Sixteen single crochets again for round 4. Move that stitch marker up. Round 5, 16 single crochets again. All right. That stitch marker up. All right. So for this next round, we're going to do 32 single crochets with both legs. So keeping our yarn going with this one, we're going to insert our hook into where the stitch marker is for this current leg. Grab the working yarn and start the single crochets. And then I like to immediately take out the stitch marker from the first leg so I don't get confused. And then for the second leg, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do a second single crochet, and then I'm going to put it in the first round, in the first one of the last one, just so I know where I started. But 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then when you've done the 16 around this one, you're going to go right over to this other side and keep going. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. All right, you should be done right before the stitch marker, so you don't need to move it because we already have it in place. All right, and then just take this yarn tail from the previous one. I like to just cut it down a little shorter and just tuck it in. Eventually, we're going to use it to sew up this hole, so don't cut it like super. You don't have to cut it if you don't want to, but we'll sew up that hole in a little bit. All right, so for round 7, we're just going to do 32 single crochets again. Go ahead and move that stitch marker. Whoops. We're going to start with 7 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to do a decrease. I'm doing an invisible decrease, but you can do whatever decrease you feel most comfortable with. Okay. And then we're going to do 14 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then another decrease. And then 7 more single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Move that stitch marker. All right, round number 9. We're going to start with 7 single crochets again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another decrease. And then 13 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Another decrease. And then to finish this round, we're going to do 6 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. Go ahead and move that stitch marker. Okay, round number 10, we're starting with 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a decrease. Okay, and then we're going to do 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, another decrease. And then finish off this round with 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right, round 11, start with 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a decrease. And then 11 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, decrease, and then finish the round with 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and move the stitch marker. All right, round number 12, we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease, and we're repeating that 6 times. So 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, okay, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, move the stitch marker. All right, round 13, we're going to do a single crochet and a decrease, and we're repeating that 6 times. So single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease. All right, move that stitch marker. And then I like to take a second right here just to stuff the legs. Otherwise it gets kind of hard once you've done more. So to do the stuffing on the legs, you're gonna have to kind of do it in smaller pieces because we've got to get it through a small hole. But then it's got to go into both of the legs. So kind of break it off into some smaller pieces. And just kind of make sure that the legs get stuffing. Don't worry too much about right here. We'll keep stuffing that more, but just make sure the tips of the legs get stuffed. All right. Next round, 14, we're going to be doing 12 increases. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right, round 15, we're doing 2 single crochets and an increase, repeating it 8 times. So 1, 2, 'increase, 1, 2, increase, 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 1, 2, increase. Right. Then we have rounds 16 through 20. We're going to be doing just single crochets all the way around. You should have a total of 32. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Right, round 17, same thing, 32 single crochets. Move the stitch marker up. Okay, round 18, same thing, 32 single crochets. Move the stitch marker. All right, round 19, same thing, 32 single crochets. the stitch marker. All right, and last time, round number 32 single crochets. Right, move the stitch marker. Round 21, we're doing 3 single crochets and a decrease, repeating 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 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 3, decrease. All right. All right, move the stitch marker, and then for round 22, we're doing 2 single crochets and a decrease. So 1, 2, decrease, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease. Right. Move the stitch marker. All right, at this point, we're gonna finish stuffing the body and start stuffing the head. So first, I'm gonna finish the body. So you have to kind of get it all the way down. Until you kind of feel like you've got a good amount of stuffing in there. I'm gonna do a teeny bit more. All right, and then we're gonna place the safety eyes on before we stuff the head. So you can kind of put them, it kind of just depends on how far apart you want them to be, how far on the sides of the head you want them to be, all that fun stuff. So it's kind of totally up to you on the placement of the eyes. I normally do, when I'm at this point, I do about 2 rows down. Normally 6 stitches in between roughly, you can do 5, but that's usually what I do. Go ahead and pop the backs on. Okay, and then go ahead and add stuffing to the head. Just little bits at a time. And remember, when stuffing, we're gonna stick our fingers in and we're gonna push all the stuffing to the edges. That's how you stuff it. Push it to the edges. Keep going. All right. Just keep stuffing till you feel like you've got a good amount in there. And then we're gonna finish off the top part of the head. All right, round 23, we're just doing a single crochet and then a decrease all the way around. So single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease. Right. Move it up. And then the last round is 24, and you're just doing decreases all the way around. So 1, 2, 3,
5.
6.
7.
Okay, go ahead and leave a little yarn tail and cut it off. Okay. We're going to go ahead and attach to the yarn needle, and to close up this hole, make sure you take the stitch marker out. Totally would have forgot about that. We're going to take our yarn needle and we're just going to thread it through the front loops only of that last round. Alright, and then just go ahead and stick your yarn needle in somewhere, pull it out. Okay. Cut it off, and now you have your adorable bunny body. Nice like this. And then you should still have a hole kind of where we attached the legs. So we're going to go ahead and just cut off a piece of yarn, or you can use one of the yarn tails from earlier. Attach it to a yarn needle. And then we're going to go ahead, and I like to attach it just kind of back here. And I like to tie a knot just because I want to make sure that it stays. And then we're just going to take it and we're just going to put it through both sides of this hole and just stitch it up nice and tight so that our bunny doesn't lose any stuffing, doesn't come apart. This yarn tail is in the way. Hey. And then I just kind of go back and forth a couple times like that, just to make sure that the yarn stays in, because we don't want it to come undone. Cut it off, and there you go. All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the 2 arms and the tail. So let's start with the tail. We're going to make our magic ring alternative. And we're going to do 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, And then we're just going to do 6 single crochets around for round 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure you flip it and then slip stitch to close it. Leave a little yarn tail because we do have to sew it on. And then I like to just take the starting yarn tail and tuck it in and use that to kind of stuff the tail. Okay. Next, we're going to do the 2 little hands. I'm going to start with our magic ring alternative. And we're going to do 8 single crochets this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then we're just going to do rounds 2 through 5, all just with 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's round 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's round 3. Make sure you flip it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's round 4. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to go ahead and add a little stuffing into the arm. You don't need a ton. Just a teeny bit into the tip, to the very end, just to give it a little bit of a shape. And then go ahead and single crochet and shut with 4 single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4. Leave a little yarn tail. All right, and repeat again. So, magic ring alternative, 8 single crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, just do 8 single crochets around 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember to flip it. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And go ahead and add the little bit of stuffing. All right, single crochet it shut. Two, 3, 4. Finish it off, and there's the both hands. Now to do the bunny ears, we are going to start with doing our magic ring alternative. And we're gonna do 6 single crochets in that second chain from the hook to start. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, go ahead and place that stitch marker. All right, round 2, we're going to be doing 6 increases. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, 6. I'm going to move that stitch marker. I'm going to make sure you flip your piece. Round 3 is going to be a single crochet and then an increase, and we're repeating it 6 times. Single, increase, single, increase, single, increase, single, increase, single, increase, single, increase. Just go ahead and move this up. All right, round 4, we're just single crocheting around for a total of 18 single crochets. All right, round 5, same thing, we're doing 18 single crochets. Move that stitch marker. Round 6, same thing, 18 single crochets. right, move the stitch marker. All right, round 7, we're doing a single crochet and then a decrease, and we're repeating that, or sorry, 7 single crochets and then a decrease, and we're repeating that twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease. Move the stitch marker. Right, round 8 is 6 single crochets and a decrease, and we're repeating that twice. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, decrease. All right, round number 9 is 5 single crochets and a decrease, repeating that twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease. All right, round 10 is just 12 single crochets. All right, round 11 is 4 single crochets and a decrease, repeating that twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. All right, round 12 is just 10 single crochets. round 13, same thing, 10 single crochets. All right, round 14, we're gonna do 3 single crochets and a decrease, repeating it twice. So 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease. All right, I'm gonna take the stitch marker out because at this point it's really hard to put it in, but round 15 we're just doing 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I'm going to leave the ear and stuff just because then you can kind of mold it to make the ear shape, but if you want to, you could add some stuffing. But to finish off the ear, you're just going to pinch the top closed and single crochet 4 across both sides. All right, leave a little yarn tail for sewing. And now you have one of the ears. Right, we're gonna go ahead and make a second ear. So again, start with your magic ring alternative with 6 single crochets for it. All right, round 2, 6 increases. Right, round 3, single crochet and then an increase, repeating it 6 times. Round 4, just 18 single crochets. Make sure that it is facing out, the right side's facing out. All right, round number 5, same thing, just 18 single crochets. Right, round 6, same thing, 18 single crochets. Alright. Round 7 is 7 single crochets and a decrease, repeating twice. All right, round 8 is 6 single crochets and a decrease, repeating it twice. All right, round 9 is 5 single crochets and a decrease, repeating twice. right, round number 10 is just 12 single crochets. All right, round 11 is going to be 4 single crochets and then a decrease, repeating it twice. All right, round 12 is just 10 single crochets. All right, round 13, just 10 single crochets again. Alright, round 14, 3 single crochets and a decrease, repeating twice. Right, round 15, just 8 single crochets. Same thing, don't stuff, just pinch and then single crochet 4 across the top to close it off. All right, now we have all the bunny parts done, time to assemble. All right, we're gonna go ahead and make the overalls for our adorable bunnies. So we're gonna start by chaining 36. So however you want to start your chain, just go ahead and start chaining. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. All right. Now to create our little beginning of the overalls, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch right into the first chain. Oops, wrong one. So just slip stitch right into the first chain to close it off. All right, so now you have that, and all we're going to do is we're going to twist so that it creates a figure 8. And then what I'm going to do to keep the figure 8 placement is take my stitch marker and use it to hold the two together so that it stays in a figure 8. And I'm going to start single crocheting all the way around. So we're going to have 36 single crochets. But definitely make sure you place another stitch marker where we're starting so that you know, if you don't want to focus on counting the whole time. But we're going to do 36 single crochets. And then as we're working with this figure 8, it's going to get kind of tricky because you're going to try and follow different lines. So keeping it in the figure 8, when you get to that spot where they meet, you're going to get to that spot where they meet. So I'm just kind of keeping my fingers pinched right there. And then all you're going to do is, so instead of following the chain that goes down, we're just going to skip right over to the other side of it, to the other part of the chain that's going back up. And then you're going to keep just single crocheting over there. right, and then once again you get over to that area where we've got it going. You're gonna skip over just right to the other side of it. All right, and you can kind of tell where you started just based on that, but go back to the beginning. All right. Perfect. So now you can see that we have like a figure 8 looking on the bottom, but then from where we're working, you can see the outline of our single crochets goes over that middle spot where where that figure 8 is. All right. So then for round 3, we're doing 7 single crochets and then a decrease, and we're repeating it 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease, and just follow those single crochets that we did on the last round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease. All right. All right, round number 4, we're going to start with 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to do 2 decreases. So 1, 2, and then 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a decrease, and then 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Okay, sorry, not 6 single crochets. Just 3. Or 2. 3 single crochets, sorry. And then we're going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to skip 4 of the next stitches, and that's going to create the hole for the tail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're just going to continue with 2 single crochets on the other side. And then we're going to decrease. And then we're going to finish off with 2 more single crochets. Right. Then round number 5, start with a decrease. And then we're going to do 6 single crochets and a decrease, and we're repeating that 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, decrease, 1, 2, make sure you work in the chain 5 that we did, 3, 4, 5, 6, decrease, 'kay, and then we're going to finish out with 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then round number 6. Round number 6, we're starting with a decrease again. And then we're going to go 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to skip 1, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets in this next stitch. Two, 3, and then in the next stitch another 3 double single crochets. 2, 3. All right, skip 1 again, and then we're going to just start with 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3 single crochets, then a decrease, and then 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a decrease. Perfect. And then finish out the round with 4 single crochets. 2, 3, 4. All right. Go ahead and slip stitch to finish off. You don't have to leave a super long yarn tail because we're not sewing it to anything. Alright, so in the front you should have that little spot where we did the 3 double crochets. And in the back you will have our little hole for the tail. You can see the figure 8 shape on the bottom. And that's the base of the overalls. So now let's move on to the straps. So we're going to grab our yarn. And then to start, we're going to be attaching it on either side of this double crochet. And I always like to attach it with a slip stitch first, just to ensure that it stays, like just a little knot. And then we're going to chain 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then depending on the size of your bunny, you can either do more, you can do less, just kind of depends. And then you're going to attach it at the back, just on either side of the tail hole, just with a slip stitch. And then cut it off, pull it tight. Now you have one strap, and let's go ahead and repeat for the other strap. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then just go ahead and slip stitch to the back. All right, and then you'll weave in all your yarn tails to finish off, but now you have the overalls. All right, time to sew our cute little bunny on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the arms to get them on before we get the ears on, because the ears are kind of going over the arms a little bit. Attach your arms to your yarn needle. And then because we sewed the arms shut with some single crochets, it'll be really easy to sew them on. And we're just gonna place them. I kind of like to start it with where we're gonna start, right down from the eye. And then you're gonna put it right where the head and the body connect, or like one round below it, roughly. And then super easy to sew on, just sew it in a straight line. Not too complicated. All right, make sure you go into every single crochet on the top. And then I like to just stick it in somewhere else and pull it out. Just like that. And you can do it a couple times if you want, but I like to just do that. It helps give it a little more security as far as like holding it on. Cut that yarn tail off. Then we're going to go ahead and repeat with our other arm. Oops. All right, same kind of placement. We're just going to line it up with the bottom of the eye. And then just sew it in a line across. All right, now as far as the tail goes, if you made overalls to put on the bunny, what I like to do is put the overalls on first so that we get the correct placement for the tail. Make sure that it's going to go through the hole that we wanted it on. So just go ahead, slide your overalls onto your bunny. It might be kind of hard to put on the first time just because they haven't like stretched out yet. You just have to kind of get them on. All right. Once you get your overalls on your bunny, making sure that they're where you like them, we're going to go ahead and find the tail hole. And then I like to just place the tail in and then using an extra yarn needle, stick it through the center of the tail. And then go ahead and take the overalls back off so that you can sew it on a little bit easier, but that just helps make sure we get the correct placement so that it goes through. If you're not wanting to use the overalls, you didn't make them, that's totally fine. You can just sew it where you want it. And you don't even have to do that even if you are using the overalls. I just find it helpful to make sure that I get it in the right place so I don't have to undo it later. But for the most part, it should just be right at the top of where the two legs meet. And using that yarn needle to hold it on actually really helps because then it's not moving a ton. It can twist, but it can't move, so it's actually really easy to sew in a circle if you use that. All right. And last but not least, it's gonna be our cute little bunny ears. Go ahead and tie it on. And then for the ears, as far as placing them goes, obviously they're gonna go on the sides of the head. And now you can choose how you want them on. I like to do them, like you can do either way, but for the most part your ears kind of go at the top here. That you can tell they kind of have a natural curve going one way. I like to make sure that that curve is facing inwards on the bunny. And it is going to cover up the arm unless you put the arm a little more forward. But it's going to go right there, kind of around rounds 3, 4-ish, depending on where you want it. And then obviously keep it right in place. Again, I like to use that yarn needle to kind of just help. And then you're just sewing in a straight line. Make sure to go into all the single crochets. Perfect. All right, on to the other ear. Same thing, we're going to make sure that that natural curve is facing in. Line it up with the other ear. And just start sewing. All right, go ahead and cut it off. Then the final part for our bunny is we're just gonna take some of our pink yarn that we did for the overalls, and we're gonna make a little nose for him, little mouth. Go ahead and attach it to your yarn needle. And then you can kind of do this one however you want to. You can do a little smile if you want. You can do like the nose, you can do a line, kind of just totally up to you. But we're gonna take it, and we're going right on the same line as the bottom of the eyes. And I'm just going under 2 stitches. I'm just going to go around that a couple of times. You might get some stuffing coming out, and that's fine. But like I said, just a couple times to give it a little nose. And then just pull it out somewhere else like this to secure it. And then as far as our starting one goes, you can take your hook and just kind of stick it in somewhere. Pull it through, and that just kind of helps keep it on like that. And there you have it. Now that you have all the parts on, go ahead and put the overalls back on. And your bunny is complete. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching this crochet tutorial for your adorable bunny. And I would love to see all of your guys' recreations of this. So please, if you post it on social media, tag us at Okie Dokies Crochet so I can see. Thanks, guys!